because it is such an amazing opportunity. And the impact of India is not just India, it's a global impact. And I think it's our opportunity as a company to dive into a model that fits perfectly for emerging markets. You look at how Nu Skin has grown in our first 40 years, and we've done really well in more established markets. Some of our top markets, the US, you look at Korea, Japan, China, it's pretty amazing to see how we've done in some more established markets around the world. Canada, it's done great as well. But India is an opportunity for us to fully develop a market for and develop an opportunity for our emerging markets. We're in the middle of this right now for Latin America, building a Latin America specific model that fits in emerging markets. And we have the chance to do this in India as well. I'm excited to talk today. It'll be a recap for some of you, but excited to talk to a lot of you. This is the first time you're hearing information about India and what's coming and how you can best be prepared to maximize this in your organizations. So let's jump into some data really quick. First of all, India, it's hard to ignore 1.4 billion people. If you look around the world, there are 3 direct sales markets that do more than $1 billion a year in sales where we don't operate. Brazil and Ecuador in Latin America, and then India. And with 1.4 billion people, India is an economy that's in growth. It's a massive market for us, and we're thrilled to start figuring out our entry into the country. Next. So here's a few stats. Not only is it massive with 1.4 billion, but 65% of the population is under 35 years old. So it's a young population, 28 median age, almost 1 billion just millennial and Gen Z, which is crazy. And I mean, as you know, that's an age that does really well in Nu Skin as people come in and are in build mode as well. And so next slide. Here's something that's interesting. I talked about how the model in India is going to be different because it's a very different economy. This demonstrates it really well. The middle class, there's about 400 million in the middle class in India. And just look at that comparison, because China, we entered into China, what was it? Not quite 20 years ago. And the upside to China has been incredible. But you look at the middle class income of 15K to 74K in China, we're talking 7K to 22K in India. And so the product mix and the way we present the opportunity is going to be different in India than it might be in what you've seen in China. In fact, there's a lot of protectionist legislation in India. And so there's going to be a different approach to the business, still staying true to our core and who we are as a leadership company. We'll always be a leadership company with the best products in the world. But the product mix will feature a lot of things that fit better in a market where the middle class is making 7K to 22K a year, you know? And so I think that's something that's really interesting to keep in mind as we get started to move into India. Next. So let's talk about what's happening with direct sales, because this is something that's so exciting. It's already doing more than $3 billion a year in direct sales, but the growth rate is amazing. 13.3% is their 3-year compounded annual growth rate. There's about 12 million distributors participating. And so if you think about that, you compare that to the US market, which is obviously a much more established economy that does 40.5 billion. They're on a smaller growth rate, 4.8%, but there's 16 million distributors. So think about the difference there. 40 billion divided by 16 million, and then 3.2 billion divided by 12, you get about 10 times as much revenue per affiliate, per distributor in the US versus India currently. And so with that in mind, we have to be able to reach the masses to do this well in India. And so I thought that was an interesting stat that we shared at the meeting. Okay, next slide as well. So who are the key players in India? I mean, they've just very recently opened up to direct sales, and Herbalife is the key player, almost 800 million in sales. And you look at their business model where they've been able to break things down to the individual shake. And that's pretty impressive, 800 million. They've been helping to open the market up. Modicare and Vestige are 2 local Indian-based companies. doing 284 and 264 million, and Amway does about 220 million in India. Next. But here's something that's really interesting. The timing is right, where the economy is not only growing at double-digit rates, but the gig economy is accelerating tremendously. So by 2030, from where they're at today, which has already been on a tremendous growth in the gig economy, they expect a 200% increase in the gig workforce in India. And of the 1.4 billion, at least 4% is going to be full-time full-time gig workers as well. Next slide. So as we talk about how are we going to be successful in India, and how can you take part in this now as we get ready to open the market, here's a few things to keep in mind. We have to leverage our international leaders to grow India. That's going to be critical. We can't just go and start from scratch, but each of you is going to play a role in it, and you're going to be financially incentivized to play a big role in us getting ready to launch India. The product mix and the price has to be top of mind. And so what you're going to see is, yeah, we'll have some of our top products, but you're also going to see new products, lower price products, so that we can better penetrate the masses where middle class is making 7K to 20K a year. And so we have to keep that in mind as we're developing our product strategy. But it has to be affiliate powered opportunity model. We are a leadership company at Nu Skin. And I think that was one of the key messages throughout the Team Elite trip. We are a leadership company, and we will always be a leadership company. And that's going to be a critical component to our success as we go into India. India as well is one of the top connected markets in the world, where nearly 93% of the population connects through their cell phone. And so what we do has to be digital first as well. We have to meet them where they're at, digital first, right product mix, and we're thrilled with what's coming with India. So next slide. So the thing with India is, and we'll get to this in a second, I mentioned that it's very restrictive. To make money in India, you have to have the ability to work in India. And so similar to how the China model works, not everyone can just go and sponsor in India. It has to be done with the bridge, and I'll get to that in just a second. But you're going to have to find people who have dual citizenship somewhere, who are authorized to work in India and authorized to work in an open market now, as we start building towards that. The thing that's amazing is there are a lot of people from India with the ability to work in India living all around the world. And so here, there's a lot of people from North America on this call. 6.3 million people of Indian descent living in North America that would be eligible to be working in the market. It was pretty incredible when we were in Dubai. Most of the people I was talking to were from India. And so the Middle East, so West Europe as well, has a big population. Southeast Asia, 3.75 million. And so there's a lot of people around the globe, Indians who have moved outside of India around the globe, who can be that connection as we look to expand into the market shortly. Next slide. And so I mentioned this, but will each of you be able to work directly in India? No, not directly in India. And so, because in order to work in India, in order to have an account in India, you have to have either a work visa, which is tough to get if you're not an Indian national. It's possible, but it's a process. Commissions for Indian accounts are obviously paid in Indian rupees, and they're taxed in India. And so as we're getting ready to open India, it's important to mention this bottom point here. So there's not going to be in-person or Zoom meetings targeting people in India yet. There's not going to be pre-marketing in India. I saw the comment from Julie in the chat. It's the connectors that we're looking for as we get ready to open the market down the road in the next couple of years. It comes down to finding the right people who are connectors. And so next slide, and this will give a little bit more clarity to that point. So we're looking for first generation leaders to be that connection into India. And so there's kind of three different categories of accounts that would be eligible to work in India. First, there's the overseas citizen of India. So people who were born in India who have now moved overseas. There's the person of Indian origin. So this is a different category, PIO. who also have the ability to work in India. And then the final one is a non-resident Indian. And these are people who, so these are the three types of categories of people who would be eligible to sign up in India. But in order for you to sign them up, they also have to have eligibility to sign up in an open market where we're currently operating. Next slide. So you're probably wondering, okay, if I can't sponsor them directly, what's in it for me? Well, you can still build a team of people who can take part in this opportunity. And obviously, the thing about Nu Skin is we are a sixth generation, 5% company with leadership, right? So we know that we get paid 6 generations. Well, in addition to plugging people in who can then go build in India and make money that way, the key part here is we're introducing a founders program that's going to be a critical part of our success in India, and a key way to incentivize your participation now. While India itself won't be opening until 2025 at the earliest, you can start preparing for that launch now by building what we're calling India eligible brand reps and India eligible leadership teams. Let me give a little context for what that looks like. We're going to be creating a founders pool. We're going to take a percentage of our revenue of India the first year and potentially following years. We'll share more about that soon. And splitting it in a pool between the people who have built India eligible brand reps. And so basically there's different tiers within this. And I want to give a clear clarification here. So we're not saying go and build 40 wide G1 brand reps in India to get a founder 40. It starts by having a G1 eligible brand rep, but from there it's the leadership team that's built. And so if that person goes and gets several other India eligible brand reps, that's all part of your leadership team. And as long as you have that connector on your G1, that's counting towards you to generate those shares in the founders program. And so you can start this now. In fact, we need help to start in order for us to get there. And I'll share that in the next slide. But basically what you need to do now is qualify as a founder by finding those G1 eligible brand reps who can build their leadership teams. The more you build, the more shares that you will have in this founders pool as we open the market formally and base it on that revenue that's generated there. Now, in addition, so you qualify as a founder, get new BRs, and maintain a Ruby Plus title by market launch, and then generate India-sourced organizational volume. As you do that, you'll be able to take part in this founders pool. Next slide. And this is the key part here. Our launch date in India is dependent on our success in preparing for the launch of India. And so basically what's going to happen here is you can see that there's different phases, but there'll be a phase where our first target is to get 500 new India eligible brand reps. And we're going to be launching on May 1st, a site where once you've signed these people up, they qualify as brand rep, you register them as an India qualified brand rep. And once we get to 1,000, that's what we're looking to do the full launch of India. And so the sooner we get there, the sooner we can launch. We're targeting 2025 optimistically to get there. But this is such tremendous upside, and we'll continue to unlock additional support as we grow closer to the launch. That is a quick summary. Now, the other major announcement that was shared on the team leadership, if we go to the next slide, is the upcoming Platinum Elite bonus. And we are